into it. What's going on? Mic check. All right, Facebook, we good. All right, let's get right into this. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on the time of day, wherever you're consuming this. If you're having a great day, started off well, it's going well. You're just moving. You're doing what you got to do. You're here. You're listening to me. You're listening to the work I do here. So it's going well. It is going well. Somebody
you're listening to me. You're listening to the work I do here. So it's going well.
All right, here we go. Right into it. You already see what the thumbnail is. You already see what we're talking about. Wintrepreneur Wednesday. We're back for another Wintrepreneur Wednesday, and it is a absolutely fantastic one because it started just 2 weeks ago when I really started to consume a lot of Alex Hormozi stuff. And this weekend, I actually finished the second book, finished listening to the second recording or the second audio version of his book, which is $100 Million Lead. So I'm going to be following up from what I said 2 weeks ago when I was listening to $100 Million Offers. And if you can recall, I showed how that book and listening to the audible version of that book helped me, develop my offer, figure out who exactly I'm targeting, what exactly I'm about. And then the leads component is the next component of it. And then we're going to go over all that stuff today. So before I get started, before we really dive into the weeds of today's topic and we get to the articles and all that kind of stuff, let me just get through 2 simple announcements. Going to keep them nice, short, and sweet for you. First and foremost, business owners, if you are serious, all right, if you're serious and you are sick and tired of replacing employees. When I say replacing employees or needing to replace employees, I'm not going to tell you that you're sick and tired of replacing employees, but needing to replace employees and having this vision, having this goal, having these things that you want to do in your business that you're incredibly, incredibly passionate about. Yet you hand that vision off to somebody who calls themselves a staff member or calls themselves an employee, and the only thing they care about is themselves and money, and you got to constantly replace people. You want to reduce the turnover rates. I do what I do. In fact, Jesus, I haven't even, let me just get through. I'll introduce myself first. Let me get through my introduction first for anybody that's new to my world. You can already feel if you're new around here, you see how I get right into the point and how passionate I am about this stuff. First and foremost, okay, my name. Let me start with my name. My name, Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon-to-be 6-time published author and educator. What I do, what the whole Move Swiftly business is all about, is taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them with business owners and businesses so they have a staff, a cohesive unit, a team, a group of employees that moves as efficiently as a championship high school or youth football team. That is the system that we create over here. And as you can see, incredibly, incredibly passionate about this work. This is my life. This is what I do all day. Every little thing that I've actually had to live through, it all leads me into having the information in my head that I'm able to give to you all as business owners, so you do not run into a problem in which you can't get the people right. You can't get the people right, and it's starting to eat away at your profits, and you're not able to put food on the table for your family and pay your bills and do all the things that you need to be doing as an adult, right? Because all of the profits are going towards replacing people that say that don't know what the hell it is they're doing. And you don't have the system. You don't have the right system to keep people employed. That's the issues that we tackle here every single day over here in the Move Swiftly world of sports marketing. Now, as far as what you need to be doing, as far as I'm getting back to the announcements now, because I got a little fired up there. I need you to go to the first step that I need you to take is go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. That's freeguide.makeyourmove.com. As you can see here, if you're looking at this visually, podcast listeners, I'm on freeguide.makeyourmove.com, just kind of showing you what to expect there, where I created a system. I created a 10-step system in which you can utilize right now in your business that'll make it so you have the things that you need to have now to build to build out your team, to start the systems. It starts with establishing measurables, creating a professional distance, and creating a productive environment. So all that information is there on freeguide.makeyourmove.com. If you would like to just have me come out and do a workshop with you and talk about how I can, come in and implement the system, all of that is available on simply makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. It is right here for all the information. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. All right, so got a little fired up there on the intro because I am dealing, again, as a teacher. So I do teach, and as a teacher, the issues that I'm able to come up with, or the issues I'm able to tackle every single day, a lot of it stems from the education world and just not being educated in a way that makes it so you're bringing in the right folks. So people don't even have the right mindset going into whatever job it is they're looking for. They're approaching work from such a selfish, all about me mentality, when it's important that you got to be approaching life and approaching work, approaching what you do for a living from an all about we mentality, W-E, a big we, in terms of how can I, eventually build a career, build out a mindset, build out a structure, build out a situation in which I'm serving the world. Like Marianne Williamson says, your playing small does not serve the world. And when you're playing small, you're only thinking about yourself. You're only talking about me, and how much can I make and what can I do? And you're not developing a sense of community, you're not developing a sense of this is the cause, this is the thing, these are the things that I want to solve in my life, these are the things that I want to break, these are the trends that I want to break for generations and generations to come. That is the problem right there. All right. So what I did, and this has been every Wednesday for the past well over a year at this point, is I have come up with a brand new term. I coined this term named Win-trepreneur. Yes, it sounds very much, and I'm going to play in fact, let me just put it up on the screen now. I'm going to read you two articles today. The one that you see right there on the screen that says Win-trepreneur Wednesday, Alex Hormozi, Google Ads and action over information. And also the one that I wrote 2 weeks ago. You guys can see the receipts. April 23rd, you see 2025. You see Win-trepreneur Wednesday, what's the offer? And the one that just posted today. Or just got published today, Win-trepreneur Wednesday. And I want to play both. I want to read both of them to you so you develop an understanding that you can't be running around like one of my coaching mentors, shout out to Dre Baldwin. He would always talk about this concept of you don't want to be a pig. All right. And a pig is an acronym for professional information gatherer. All right. Professional information gatherer. And what I see most in a lot of situations and a lot of businesses that fail, a lot of people that talk about what it is they want to do. They run around saying they're going to do this, saying they're going to do that, saying how cool this is. They're going to pay the money for that seminar. They're going to pay the money for this seminar. They're going to go and make the websites, create the logos and all that other stuff that's the fun part of running a business. Is they gather so much information, but never actually put results to it, never actually apply the information, never actually, go out and create things to where you learn something. Again, as much information, as much stuff as I put out there, I'm taking in more than I actually put out. Like just the reason that this recording, like when I started, I got a little fuzzy, but I was a little fired up, is because I was listening to Jason Whitlock. So recording this, it is May 14, 2025, right? And there's been a big thing going around on social media about black fatigue. And when I heard the concept of black fatigue, again, I'm like, I'm all over that. I'm going to be, so expect that. I will be talking about that 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, that'll be the theme. I'll be addressing a lot of the things that people have been saying about black fatigue. But what I was listening to Jason Whitlock and another YouTuber that I keep up with quite frequently. It's always cool when you see the people that you listen to. They're on other platforms that I listen to. So for a couple of weeks ago, I was telling you guys, Anton Daniels is one of the people that I've been listening to a lot since the election. And I mean, just absolutely crushing it. So before I started recording this, I was listening to him on Jason Whitlock, and also actually Dre Baldwin. He was on Jason Whitlock's show too. So Jason Whitlock, man, if you listening, bro, you got to get me on, man. I got to get on to that show. I got to get on that fearless stuff, man, because I tuned into it quite a bit. And so Anton Daniel was just cooking. He was cooking in terms of Black fatigue and what he was saying. And, the question came up about, is there a solution and what the solution is going to be? And me being in the position I'm in to teach kids, be able to do this. And then also right after I'm done with this, I'm able to go teach at a school that is named the Center for Creative Education, and the opportunity that I see, but also some of the Black fatigue that, the world is seeing and all that stuff. It helps so much, right? But it's not going to help. It's not going to do a damn thing for anybody if I don't apply the information, right? I've mentioned three people, right, that have put out tons of great information that between Jason Whitlock, between Anton Daniels, between Dre Baldwin, and I tune into their work, but I'm also applying it in my way and saying things and speaking things from my perspective. Whether you agree or you disagree, you got to be willing, you got to be bold enough to put the information out there, to learn what you got to learn, but then also offer your own antidotes, also offer your own opinions and your focuses and your goals and things like that, because that's how winning happens. That's how you become a wintrepreneur. That's how you become something that's productive. That's how you become a productive man. That's how you build a constructive business. It's not that everybody's agreeing all the time. It's not in a situation where everybody's going to like you, or everyone's going to, have this affinity for you where you can just, where no one's going to disagree with what you're saying. But you stand strong on your principles, you stand strong on your morals, you're not doing things that are unethical, and your heart's always in the right place, and you're trying to improve something. That is what it should be all about. All right. So when it comes to Wintrepreneur Wednesday, and now let me get to the article. So here's what I'll do. I'll read the first one fully through, and then we'll go over the second one. So 3 weeks ago, let's get to the article. This was April 23rd, 2025. Wintrepreneur Wednesday. What's the offer? All right. I'm gonna read it through, and then we'll get into the one that I did today. So it's that time again. It's that time again. Wintrepreneur Wednesday, a day I look forward to every single week, not just because it's one of my signature series across all content platforms, but because it's a movement born from personal experience. For those new here, let's define it quickly. Wintrepreneur, an entrepreneur-minded individual who's had the good fortune of finding a job that aligns with their entrepreneurial vision. And yes, this isn't just content, it's the working title of my 6th book. Some Wednesdays I spotlight fellow entrepreneurs. Other times I dig into one of the deeper principles behind them. Today, we're doing a bit of both. The shift that changed my offer and my business mindset. Let's rewind a week. Something personal happened. Something I'm not ready to share publicly. But yeah, it's coming back. This is my first time reading it. So, all right, since that time. Something I'm not ready to share publicly, but let's just say it shook me. My girlfriend, after learning the truth about a situation I hadn't been fully honest about, showed me grace. She forgave me, and instead of resentment, she gifted me something. The audible version of Alex Hormozi's $100 million leads. At first, I just recognized the name, Hormozi. Yeah. I've heard of him, right? So when she sent it to me, I remember the name Alex Hormozi. Yeah, I'd heard of him. A colleague of mine, a self-development junkie, talks about him religiously. But as I started listening into the intro of leads, right? So the $100 million lead that she recommended leads, Alex himself suggests starting with his first book, $100 million offers. So I paused leads, grabbed offers, and now with just under about an hour left in the audiobook, I can confidently say my business will never be the same. All right, who is Alex Hormozi? If you're unfamiliar with Alex Hormozi, If you're unfamiliar, Alex Hormozi is a former gym owner turned multi-millionaire entrepreneur, investor, and author. Alongside his wife, Layla, he built acquisition.com, a business investment platform that helps companies scale from 3 to 100 million in revenue. He's known for cutting through the fluff and getting straight to what moves the needle, creating offers that are so good people feel stupid saying no. He doesn't glamorize entrepreneurship. He doesn't pitch you a lifestyle. He breaks down exactly how value is created and how most people get stuck doing things that look like business, but don't actually generate revenue. My takeaway, forget the ego work, fix the offer. After internalizing even 80% of $100 million offers, I looked at my own business with fresh eyes. I realized how often I prioritized ego building over income producing. Things like website touch-ups, logo redesigns, merch launches, pretty pitch decks, long-winded brand manifestos. None of these things are inherently bad, but if your offer isn't right, all of them are just distractions. What Hormozi helped me lock in on is this. You don't have a business until you have a valuable targeted offer that solves a painful problem for a specific person. So now my employee development workshops available here on Move Swiftly workshops are no longer just events or programs. They are offers designed with specific people in mind, built to create specific results. Final word, your offer is your compass. The right offer doesn't just bring in money, it brings you clarity. Clarity on where your time needs to go, clarity on what's worth spending money on, clarity on what to ignore. Even if it looks cool, makes you feel like a real entrepreneur, whether you're still side hustling or fully independent, being a wintrepreneur starts with knowing what you're offering and why it matters. Before you print t-shirts and buy a domain name, get your offer right. Part 2 of this will come when I finish $100 million leads and apply what I'm learning about traffic and lead generation. But for now, if you're building something, ask yourself one question. What's the offer? So this was 3 weeks ago. All right. This was 3 weeks ago. And let's get to today's article now. Today's article where I finally finished $100 million leads. I finally finished listening to the whole thing. And as I was telling you on Monday, the biggest takeaway I had from that book is really leaning into your leverage, really leaning into your leverage. And I said this on Monday, and I want to repeat myself when I explain this story and how real it was, and the power of vision, the power of implanting your vision in somebody else's head and putting your vision out there in such a raw and authentic way, and in a way that it's very, very easy for a person to understand. Very, very digestible, very much a situation in which anybody that really thinks about it, is really tuned in, will get it. All right. So in $100 million leads, he makes the distinction. He says, I think we're talking about Alex Hormozi now. He says, the oldest lady in the world can take a lever and essentially pick up a truck. She had the right lever. She could, get a truck lifted in some way, an elderly lady. All right. So he put that vision out there. And then he said, the strongest man in the world, the one bodybuilding, lives in the gym, doing all the work, putting all the work in, would not be able to lift the truck if they didn't have a lever. If they didn't have a lever, right? So when he said that, it led to this entire theme, this entire week where we've been talking about leverage and understanding no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's nothing you can do. You have to use your leverage. You have got to use the leverage that is made available to you. And if you're not using your leverage, first of all, you have to know what your leverage is. You have to know what the leverage is that you bring, what makes you unique. What makes you unique to the marketplace? What makes you the unique person? What makes you and your offer unique to the competitors and the people that you are, trying to outpace, trying to get the contract instead of the ones that you're competing with? What makes you unique? And do you lean into it enough? Do you lean into it enough to make it so you're constantly in that mode that regardless of the situation, you're always going to figure it out. Like when you get on the phone, listen, finding your target client or target person to buy your stuff for your target audience is one thing. Do you have what it takes to actually be good enough to follow up on the things that you're offering? Because there's nothing worse than somebody paying their money, paying your fee, and they finding out after they've paid the fee that you're not actually good enough and you've wasted people's money. That is a no. That is the worst thing that can possibly happen to you. So you better have damn sure be good enough to actually do the things that you say you want to do. All right. That's another thing that I remember talking about. I talked about this past Saturday when, Nick Saban and President Donald Trump was in the news. Appreciate that, mainstream. All right. So when Donald Trump and Nick Saban was in the news, I talked about how Nick Saban has been on record saying from the day he got hired at Alabama and built that powerhouse. And you're listening to a Michigan fan, all right? So I will admit, because I watch a lot of college football, he built that powerhouse and he said it. You are responsible for your own self-determination. All right. You are responsible for your own self-determination. You have got to put that in your head. You've got to align it in your skull, plant it in your skull. It's me that's responsible for my own self-determination. It's only you that get to answer on what you're determined to do. Only you have your life experiences. Only you have the things that you've grown up in. Only you have the things in your heart and in your mind that you've seen growing up and you hated and you wanted to solve it and you wanted to fix things and you were a kid and you were like, look, I wanted to solve this problem. That's determination. And you got to take some responsibility on going and fulfilling whatever that thing is. That's all any thought leader is going to tell you to do. That's all anybody can ever tell you to do is recognize what makes you upset, what grinds, what pushes you down that pipeline. You got to be responsible for your own self-determination. All right. So as we get into that, so that was, like I said, that was a couple of weeks ago. And let's get into the article that got published today. Hold up. Let's get this. There we go. Let's get into the article that I just published today, and then we're gonna go over it, because what I do, and if you've been in my world for any period of time, you know that I'm always writing stuff down. Like I have a whole let me show you guys really quick, and we're gonna get to it. For the podcast listeners, I am just kind of showing my little notepad I got here. All right, so I'm always walking around with this, whether it's this, a little card, something where I'm writing down. So as stuff comes up, I'm always tracking my stuff. In fact, I have a video coming. I'm going to have a video coming out in a couple, probably either tomorrow or sometime this weekend, where I'm going to be talking about how ChatGPT has become like my girlfriend jokes with me. She goes, "Yeah, you need to." My girlfriend's like, yeah, maybe you need to start dating ChatGPT stuff. But, ChatGPT has helped me because I've always been the type of person that's always taking notes down, always jotting certain things down, always just mental noting these things, because there's so many issues that I want to speak on. And ChatGPT is helping me organize my thoughts. And that's ultimately making me a stronger thought leader and a stronger person to go and do some consulting work with many, many different companies. So, and I'm bringing all this up because as we read part 2 of what I just read you part 1, as we read part 2, understand this is coming from the place where as I'm tuning into Alex Hormozi, as I'm finishing off Alex Hormozi's book, I'm more so thinking about how can I apply this information to make it so more of my ideal people are in my world every single day. All right. So here we go. No more interruptions, no more distractions. Let me read part 2. Let me read part 2 for you all, and for you podcast listeners. Again, regardless of where you're listening to this from, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share. Anybody that needs to be hearing this stuff, this is every single day, multiple times a day, multiple recordings a day. I do not stop. This is what we do. All right. So like, comment, subscribe, and share. Appreciate it. All right. So Wintrepreneur Wednesday, part 2, Alex Hormozi, Google Ads, and action over info. Action over info. Here we go. It's that time again. Wintrepreneur Wednesday. A day I look forward to every single week, not just because it's one of my signature series across all the content platforms, but because it's a movement rooted in personal experience. For those who are new here, let's get this straight. Wintrepreneur, an entrepreneurial-minded individual who has had the good fortune of finding a job that aligns with their entrepreneurial vision. Yes, this is more than just content. It's the working title of my 6th book. And here's the core takeaway from today. Apply the information you consume, whether it's this article, part 1 of this series. The only way to actually move the needle on your dreams is to go out into the real world and test your product. That's exactly what I did. What happened since part 1? In part 1, I shared insights I pulled from Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers, especially around the understanding of what makes an offer irresistible. This week, I finished $100 million leads, and the one message I kept ringing in my ears is, you think you're putting out a lot of content, but when you track it, you're barely scratching the surface. That hit hard. Let me tell you, just to go back real quick. And again, I strongly recommend you guys go get the book for yourself. I really do. I strongly recommend you guys go do that. But what he discussed in the book is he gave a story. He was telling a story about how he was working with some marketing agency and they were giving him flyers. Like they were let's say it was for, book. I was actually just talking about this book earlier on a post, but he had some flyers, let's say for a book like this, and he was out there just sending out flyers, but he was able to track the flyers, and he thought it was like 100 flyers a day or something like that. But he thought that it was a lot of flyers and he was doing a lot. He was doing a bunch of marketing, but he wasn't seeing any conversion. Like people weren't responding to him. So he went to the marketing agency guy, the person that told him to do it. And they're like, only 100 a day, only this, only that. Like the point I'm making is, you may think you're putting out a lot of content, but you're not. You're not. I can guarantee you're not. You have got to put out so much that you can't even, well, obviously you got to keep track of how you're putting it out and what's working and what's not working. But so much of it has to go out because you need to warm people up. You need to, when this is true, when you get your ideal client in mind, but this is the power and this is the importance now, okay, of once you get your ideal person in your head. Again, for me, it's that business owner of 20 or more employees that's struggling to keep a staff together, that's struggling to keep people motivated to come to work every day. They're dealing with a situation where they want to replace these employees who don't have the passion, or the employees are leaving at such an alarming rate that they can't even keep up with their profits. They're using their profits just to keep people intact. All right. Just to bring loyal people into their organization. That's their problem. So once I got to really hold into that, once I figure that out, boom, content all day, because you know your target and you know how you can help. Once you get there and you know it and you can spit it out, it has to be around the clock. And I'll close you out with this example because I'll close out this part of it with this example. I paid for coaching. Again, shout out to Dre, because Dre taught me this back when I was part of his group, his coaching program. And, Dre Baldwin, he's former pro basketball player, and now he's turned entrepreneur and he has a business that's set up, I wouldn't say the same as mine, but in similar principles that we cannot collide on. And one of the things that he told me that he thought about back when he was doing his basketball content, he said, look, I wanted to create a business. I wanted to create a business that any basketball player can go into a gym by himself. Any basketball player can go to a gym by himself and learn whatever it is they need to learn. That has to be the mentality. So when you know who the people are that you're trying to serve, you need to have it like to where it's a library of material, to where if that person was to discover or stumble across your work today, they'll have all they need right there for free. Your free stuff. And this is another point that Alex Hormozi was making a great deal in his book, is your free stuff has to be better than some people's paid stuff. Your free stuff, the stuff that you give out for free, the content and the material that you give out for free needs to be better than some people's paid stuff, the stuff that other folks actually pay for. That is the mentality that you have to have, and that's the understanding and the thinking that you have to have when it comes to who you're serving and who you're working with. Is your free stuff better than some folks' paid stuff? All right, so back to the article. Podcast listeners just know where I'm reading directly from the article now. So that hit hard. Let me go back real quick. Let me go back a little bit. So this week I finished $100 million leads, and one message kept ringing in my ears. You think you're putting out a lot of content, but when you track it, you're barely scratching the surface. That hit hard. So why Google Ads made the most sense. So I took action. I paid for my first Google ad. Woo! Yeah, I finally did it. I finally paid for my first Google ad. Now I'm clapping kind of in a funny way because for a while I had it ready and I didn't it was so much stuff. I was so focused on putting out content that I never actually went through and paid for the Google ad. But when I read that, I was like, fuck this. I gotta make sure I'm paying for a Google ad. So what I did last Thursday, I paid for my first Google ad, and it was it's pretty cool because when you go in, if you've ever had paid for a Google ad, just know you can see what's converting, you can see what's working, you could, recognize or put a budget, something that you could afford, and you can constantly track what's working and what's not working, right? So paid for a Google ad, not Facebook, not TikTok, not a boosted Instagram reel, Google. Why? Because I know exactly who my ideal client is. Business owner with 20 or more employees who is willing to invest $60,000 or more in employee development. Let's say it again for the people in the back. Do you see how neat and tight that is? How crystal clear it is? Okay? Because I know, all right, let's go back. Not Facebook, not TikTok, not a boosted Instagram reel, Google. Why? Because I know exactly who my ideal client is. A business owner with 20 or more employees who's willing to invest $60,000 or more in employee development. And here's the thing. People don't spend that kind of money by accident. They do research. They search for the right person, for the right system, with the right solution. That's why Google Ads made sense, because this level of investment starts with intention, not just passive scrolling. So I'm not calling out, and you may notice that I don't really do these reels on Instagram like that. I mean, I might post a clip here and there, but I've kind of gotten away from Instagram because the people I'm looking to serve are not scrolling Instagram. They're not scrolling a Facebook account. They're not scrolling on TikTok, wasting a bunch of time. The people I'm looking to serve are actually doing their research and looking for solutions, folks. They're looking for solutions. They're looking specifically for somebody that can get these lazy ass employees in shape with some system, something can do to get a bunch of lazy people to get to start to work. What can I create? They want to intentionally find that person. You're not going to find him or her randomly scrolling on Instagram or randomly scrolling on Facebook. All right. You're going to find them because you actually put some intentionality behind the search. You looked it up on Google. You looked it up on YouTube. You looked if there was any videos on YouTube. You probably looked it up on LinkedIn. And if you are on Facebook, it's usually going to be one of the business accounts, which is why you see me go live on my business account on Facebook, not on my personal account. Now I'm always sharing stuff from my business account to my personal account, but for the most part, it's LinkedIn, it's YouTube, it's medium.com, and the Facebook business account. Now, again, at times Instagram is going to get a post here and there, but I very rarely get anybody, really engaging with what I have to say on Instagram, because again, the work is so much about education. There's some entertainment, some entertaining things. Some people may find me somewhat entertaining, but for the most part, if I was to try to get into that game and get in that space where I'm competing with people who are like desperate housewives and they want to hear drama and what's on Instagram and all that, again, that's not my space. That's not my lane. That's not the people that I want to engage in engage with at all. Now, at times I'll see a post and I'll start laughing and, all that, but I know those aren't the people that are going to pay me the $60,000 to come in and do the workshops. That's what focus is. That's what the power of focusing on the people that you're looking to serve. That's the power in it. That's the power in it. So if you're not in that person, I wouldn't take it personally. Good. Get the fuck out. I don't need you. All right. You need the people. You need the people that are going to make it so you are building your business and doing it what it is you need to do to better yourself. Do not waste time with folks who are committed to misunderstanding you. All right. Hear me. I'm gonna say it again. People in the back, tune in. It's a lot of platforms out there. A lot of ways, a lot of opportunities for you to waste a lot of money. Waste it. I mean, take it and throw it in the trash. Just literally taking money, putting it in the toilet and flushing it with some of the bullshit that a lot of people do. A lot of business owners do. All right. You got to focus your energy on the folks that are going to be serving you. I'm telling you this. I'm making this passionate point for a reason. I've been there. I was there. All right. And I'm telling you from experience, do not waste time with folks who have already predetermined and committed to misunderstanding all of the stuff you do and all of the things you're about. It would be the biggest waste. It would be the biggest regret that you can possibly have. All right. So back to the article, folks. Here's the thing. I don't spend that kind of here's the thing. People don't spend that kind of money by accident. They do their research. They search for the right person, the right system with the right solutions. That's why Google Ads made sense, because this level of investment starts with intention, not just passive scrolling. Now, don't get me wrong. The type of people I want to reach are also on Instagram, and there's a whole separate lesson. In fact, 2 major lessons that I'll unpack on a future Wintrepreneur Wednesdays. I don't have time to unpack. I don't have time to unpack that today. All right. I usually like to keep these at 45 minutes. So, but I will say the lesson in kind of a quick way. All right. Number 1, what you need to know the psychographics of your ideal client. And number 2, only spend your money to get in front of them. So basically saying if there was let's say there was a situation where I heard that my ideal client has some sort of a thing going on Instagram, then it would make sense for my ideal client, make sense for me to spend money on some sort of Instagram ad that I know is getting in front of that particular group of people. So it really boils down to the psychographics of a person. And you got to know and understand what the psychographics of your people are, how they're going to think, what they're going to do, how they're going to make certain decisions. You got to be literally being able to finish their sentences for them before they even come up with the objections. That's the power of the right marketing. That's the ability to get in front of 100 new people a day, is knowing how to finish your ideal client's sentence. Do you lock in with them like that? Do you focus so much on how you're going to get better and improving yourself that you're able to finish their sentences and make it so you are trusted? Because I mean, anybody that's really bought something, really made the right investment. And I could speak from experience, because I've made decisions that I wasn't happy with in terms of, professional development and seminars I've gone after. And then I made an investment in a Dre Baldwin, or I've, tuned into an Anton Daniels, I've tuned into a Brandon Tatum, or even a Jason Whitlock, and they're finishing my sentences. They're literally, there's videos that I've seen and I've reacted to, and I've had literally the same reaction that an Anton Daniels would have, to the point where I've never met the man, never met him in person, but I'm now finishing his sentences. I finished his sentence before it even came out. That's when you're locked in, man. That's when you're locked in. And you're like, look, there's a certain principle, there's certain things that are just crossing the line. It's crossing the line that people put on the internet. They're crossing the line and make things difficult for everybody trying to develop and do the right thing. All right, so let me get back to the article. Podcast lesson. I'm back to the article now. So, learning to trust AI, and this was all right. So after psychographics, and then only spend your time getting in front of them, learning to trust AI, artificial intelligence. Another key takeaway from Hormozi's work is how he leveraged AI tools to scale distribution. The reality is AI isn't a threat. obscurity is. Meaning, obscurity, not knowing, being ignorant, being just stupid enough not to realize it's here and not figure out how do you adjust, how do you make adjustments in your business. That's the threat. It's the threat of just blatant ignorance and blatant, I don't know. I just don't know. Being tone deaf and just being stupid and not really realizing, seeing what's right in front of your eyes and having the selfish mindset, I don't realize, I do this, I do that. Just being stupid, okay? The faster I learn to trust these tools and get my content in front of the right people, the more impact I can make. So I'm going deeper into these platforms. I'm running the tests, I'm studying the data, and I'm not just hoping it works, tracking it. I'm tracking it. I'm tracking it. The real lesson, tracking your spending. Buying an ad is one thing. Tracking the performance is where the real growth happens. If you're spending money on attention, you better know what that money is doing. Every click, every bounce, every inquiry, it all has to tie back to a clear outcome. As Hormozi puts it, don't confuse noise for signal. That's why data matters. You don't guess, you adjust. Final word, action over information. Let this sink in. Reading is good, listening is great, studying is smart, but if you're not executing, you're just consuming. Entrepreneurs take action. They don't just study offers and leads. They run ads, they test, they track, they build. And then I just get into the call to action. Go to makeyourmove.com and schedule some time for me to come and talk, develop the system within your own self. So that was today's Wintrepreneur Wednesday. And one of the things, actually, I'll mention this as I close you guys up, because I was talking about this this morning. This book, The Six-Figure Athlete, that I did with 10 other authors, converting your skills into cash. And the reason I brought this book up is because, I'm a big sports guy. I watch a lot of sports, and we saw what happened. I saw it happen live. What happened with Jason Tatum and how he tore his Achilles in game 4 of the Knicks series, and it looks like at this point that's it. We're gonna be ringing in a new NBA champions. It does not look like the Celtics will be back. Again, never say never. You never know how the guys can step up if they're real champions. If they're really about it, then they're gonna figure out a way to win. But doesn't seem likely. And the reason I brought it up is because Jason Tatum was having the game of his life. All right. His fourth quarter, he was balling. He's putting it through. We know with Jason Tatum, he's got the 3-point shot. In addition to him having the height, he definitely can put the ball on the ground. He could take it to the rack on you too. He's got a lot of facets to his game. And he was about to be in that moment, right? He was about to have his moment. He's at the Garden. He's bringing his team back. Let's tie this thing up and let me be the superstar. He's about to elevate himself as being him, as the young boys and them like to say, being him. All right. And then the Achilles goes down. I feel horrible for him that happened. However, this is why this book is so important. It's not just because of the topic of this book, but the person that I worked with this. So shout out to Todd. He's my boy from day one. My guys. But I remember I put my first book out 5 years ago now, Swiftly. And it was only available on Amazon. And yeah, there's subtle ways of tracking who's buying it on Amazon. But I remember when he put his book out, I'm not going to say the name of the publishing company that I was working with, because they done had some, they didn't have, at least last I heard, it wasn't a very pleasant parting of ways, we'll say it like that. But the point of it, the positive things about that company is it taught not only him, but as he and I continue to reconnect, it taught us the importance of tracking your information and tracking what's going out there. So if you're going to put a book out there, if you're going to develop into the intellectual game and be in the game of putting out content, you have to make sure you're tracking the spending and always have the ability of tracking what's happening with your book, who's buying it, who you could follow up with, how you can follow up with that person, all that good stuff. And I'm bringing all this up is because when you develop in this game and you have enough, like, again, I tell people all the time, look, I have enough content out there for a lot of things to make sure a lot of things happen. My focus needs to be on organizing it in a way that is going to be digestible, and it's constantly getting in front of the right people. And that's where the learning how to track information and track what's going out there, track what's being spent on, track where the money's going, how it's coming, and all that stuff becomes incredibly important. And it's better off that you figure out how to do that now. Figure out how to do that now as you proceed. It's going to save you a lot of headaches in the future. All right. So all that being said, again, like I mentioned, to dive deeper into all the work I'm doing, let me see if first of all, I think I have a couple comments. I saw a couple comments. Great content, brother. Appreciate that. I try to use ChatGPT, the lever, use it. It can produce higher numbers. Cold outreach. Okay. The white channel been recommended. But kudos, y'all. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, man. Yes, I got a couple comments today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. The main website, as I mentioned, podcast listeners, it's makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. One-stop shop for your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one, Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker. Check it out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.